Welcome, everybody, to another spectacular episode of the Game Informer Show. That's right, this is the show where we inform you about games. I'm your host, Ben Reeves. Joined with me today, we have Alex Stadnick.
Hello, friends. Today's a good day.
It is a good day. You know why? Because we have Jay Guisao on the show.
Hello.
Coming in from New York. How's it going over there?
It's going, man. It's a nice day out. I wish I could be outside, but I'm in all day doing work. Such as
playing video games.
Yeah,
drudgery.
So hard. Oh man.
And last but not least, Leanna Rupert. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. We have a great show lined up for everybody. It's a little bit bigger, but you know what? I think it's worth it.
Bigger
because
is better.
We're going to talk. That's right. In a minute, we're going to talk about Resident Evil. Leanna got to check that out recently. We have Nier review. We're going to swap in Reiner later on to talk about MLB. And then at the end of the show, please stick around because we're interviewing Greg Russo. He's the credited screenwriter on the newest Mortal Kombat film. We talked to him. Me and Marcus talked to him for a good bit. I guess that was a whole 10-year process that it took to get this film from like initial concepts to finally being on a screen or TV near you. So we talk a little bit about that. We talk a little bit about why Kano particularly was fun to write. And also, apparently Greg is writing a Space Invaders film. So I try to get some info on like, what does that look like? How do you write a Space Invaders film? And he doesn't dish too much, but he has some interesting things to say on that. So anyway, stick around. That's at the end of the podcast. But we should kick it off with our playlist like we always do. Leanna, to be clear, you didn't play Resident Evil, but you got to watch it pretty intensely.
Yes, it was a hands-off demo. So it was designed to look like I was playing it because they wanted to make sure that we saw everything and didn't skip over certain aspects of it. And oh my God, like even though it was hands-off, I lament the fact that I'm a huge wimp because I screamed a lot more than I probably should have. But it was really good. Like my favorite one, and I know it's not everybody's, but my favorite one was Resident Evil 4, and it felt like it kind of pulled from that campiness a little bit. Like Resident Evil 4 was terrifying to me, but like it was also campy, and it kind of drew from that, which I liked. And I liked the fact that I don't know, I liked how they introduced Lady D. I can't ever say her last name, so we're just going to dub her Lady D.
Is that right?
Yeah, there you go. That's all I got.
Pretty lady. And it was cool. I really I liked the crafting. I liked it starts off you're in an accident. It's not the very beginning, but it's towards the beginning. And it starts off, we've got the preview up on the site, but it starts off where it's like, you're in an accident. Ethan Winters is all confused. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what's going on. He's trying to find his daughter. We've got the whole Chris Redfield betrayal. Is he evil? Is he not evil? He seems to kill your wife. Dialogue in one of the recent trailers between him and Ethan also hints at that as well. Cause he goes, do me next, just kill me. And it's like, oh, okay. Calm down, sir. But
do me next, Chris. Do me.
Ethan Winters, pick me. But yeah, it was good. Exploring the village was creepy. It's a very desolate area, but very well done. The visuals are stunning. The effects are stunning. You feel very immersed in the environment. Very creepy. I was kind of jumping at every single floorboard creak. I was creeping at every single sound. Meeting some of the people that are survivors in this village was kind of a trip because you kind of have that campiness too because the way they're written. But at the same time, it's just terrifying. And, not without going into huge spoilers or anything, but going and meeting the different types of people that survived, basically Mother Miranda and the big tall lady and all these supernatural creatures kind of like roam this village. And they used to like have this like pact where they wouldn't pick off villagers. And suddenly Mother Miranda was like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to kill you all. And kind of goes on this rampage. And
so did you actually get to see Mother Miranda?
You did. Well, you don't get to see her face. You get to see, we actually have a screenshot in our preview. When you kind of wake up after a big to-do happens, you see like this creepy doll that comes to life. Yeah, Alex is like, hey,
nope.
No, you don't.
Hell no.
I don't want to
Nope.
see that.
Yeah.
You see, got the weird zombie disfigured creature, and then you've got the lichens, and then you have Lady D,
Mm.
and then Mother Miranda's in the back, and she's kind of basically raffling you off like you're a piece of candy. Who wants to kill him?
Love to hear it.
Just casual and fine and
Do people raffle off candy a lot?
You should see my middle school, man.
Is that a common thing?
they should. That's how we do it in Chicago. That's not how we do it in Chicago. That's not a thing.
Trick or raffle.
But yeah.
So the impression you got was Lady Miranda seems like she's going to be the big bad in this game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm interested to learn more because obviously it's going to be tied in with Umbrella Corps. There's the supernatural element, but it's always driven by that corporation. And then you saw Chris Redfield with the blue tag to kind of symbolize that Umbrella Corps is revitalized and it's going to make up for its past mistakes. And nobody believes that crap. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because just a little bit, we saw over an hour and a half, and I feel like just that alone, there were so many twists and turns that in true Resident Evil fashion, I feel like the ending is going to be insane. But it's nice because it felt very familiar. It felt there was a lot of pull from Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 2, and obviously a lot of pull from Resident Evil 7. And but familiar enough where it's going to feel like a Resident Evil game, but new enough too where it feels almost like a fresh start a little bit, which I'm excited to delve into a little bit more. Even though I'm going to watch Aladdin and have all the lights on at the same time because I'm ridiculous.
That's an interesting strategy. I like that.
So I like the
We've
movie
obviously
choice.
talked about Resident Evil a bunch these last couple of weeks, and the demo you had covered the village. Did you get to see the castle as well?
Yeah, actually our time with it ended in the castle, which is kind of funny. Okay, so like the big tall lady, we all know she's like humongous. She's over 9. She's like what, 9'6"?
9'6".
9'6". And it's funny because when you go through, you can actually go through different doorways, and she can't fit through all of them. Big lady can't.
I feel
doors
that.
are not a girl's best friend.
I feel that.
So it kind of adds a level of strategy there. But yeah, you go in and you end up in her castle. You're trying to escape, kind of like how the first demo, the maiden, was. And she's scared. Very Mr. X, vibes. She is always there, whether you want her to be or not. And her daughters are, bleep it out, Alex, batshit insane.
Bang.
And yeah, it was interesting. Everybody said, you're not going to want, all the jokes are like, oh, you want her to sit on me or whatever. I'm like, no, you're not. She's going to kill you. It's like, no, I kind of still want her to. Like, she stabbed me in the stomach and I said, thank you. Please do it again. So
May I have some more?
Do me.
we'll see how that turns out, I guess.
Do you feel like after this time with the game, after this time watching the game, you're more excited for the game?
Yeah, I'm more excited. I really liked Resident Evil 7, but I was kind of still on the fence of what I felt about Village. I didn't know if it was kind of going too far away from Resident Evil is known for. But from what I've seen so far, it's very blended, and I've played all the demos so far as well that were open to the public. And yeah, I'm pretty hyped.
Well, we're only a couple weeks away. May 7th, the game comes out, and that means we'll hopefully have a review for you. Review impressions here in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for those. Any final thoughts, Leanna?
All I would say is if you're on the fence about it, if you kind of were like me in the beginning where you think it's not going to be Resident Evil, don't. It feels through and through like a Resident Evil game, but it feels better. Like, give it a chance. They're doing a lot of new stuff with this, and I think they're doing it really well.
Perfect. Well said. All right, Jay.
Hello. Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you feel me near you?
Sure.
Come on.
Nier Replicant. I'm not going to go through the whole title. It's a long one.
Oh,
but you played it.
Ben.
We've talked about it a couple of times previously, but now you've actually reviewed it and you put a number on this thing.
I did.
Whoa.
I gave it a 8.25.
Ooh.
There it is, baby.
There it is. It is a good game. I liked it a lot. I mean, I'm already a Nier fan. I loved Automata. I said it right this time. There you go. I loved it a lot. It's one of my favorite games ever. And I missed out on the chance to play, I believe Gestalt was the one or Gestalt or Replicant. I missed out on the chance to play either one of them back in the day, 10 years ago or over 10 years ago. And so now I finally get the opportunity to check it out with like enhanced visuals, stronger combat, and a couple of like narrative updates that I won't talk about or anything, spoilers and whatnot, but they're really good. And as far as I can tell, as someone who's watched videos of the older one, they definitely fit into the story. So for people who are coming back and playing this, it'll feel as if these things were here over a decade ago too. And that's what's really nice about it. It fits in pretty seamlessly. But yeah, it's been an enjoyable ride. 80 hours of just straight sadness and melancholy and bleakness, and I loved every single second of it. I love sad stuff.
We didn't ask about your week, Jay. We asked about the game.
Party.
There you go. Right? No, like it's really sad. I mean, I guess for people who either have not played Automata or the original Nier and are coming into this like just fresh. It's a sad game. It's just straight up sad. But there are moments of like temporary heavens in between. But most of the time you will get your heart torn out. But that's what makes it great. That's what always makes Nier great.
One of the things that people really loved about the Automata was the narrative and the creative, interesting things, philosophical things it had to say. Do you feel that this one, Replicant, replicates that, or however you want to say it? Like, does it hit the same tone? You said it's sad.
Yeah.
But is it also pretty like thought provoking?
It is. Like, I think those thought provoking moments where Automata was more philosophical, and I mean that's not to say Replicant isn't philosophical, but it feels like Automata was more philosophical, and like you could like see it like in the name of characters. Like to be was like to be or not to be from Hamlet and whatnot, and you even had like philosopher names for different bosses. But Replicant feels a little less philosophical, and it like a lot of what makes the narrative so powerful is that it gives you this like very brief understanding of its world. And like you don't get like all the history because the people living in this world don't really know all the history. The world has been horrible and dying for centuries, right? And so really what makes the narrative so powerful is the idea that like you're given like this brief synopsis of the world, and then the game just completely shifts everything. It turns everything upside down. And so not only are you questioning, like all the things that you've learned about this world, but so are the characters too, because they have just as much limited information as you do. And I think that's what makes it really heartbreaking and really riveting too.
Don't kill me. I've never played a Nier game.
That's fine. This is the perfect opportunity. If you're
Jay, seriously, don't kill her.
I'll try my best.
Not cool.
I got you later.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, it sounds cool narratively. I think that's why I played the last Nier game, and I'm interested in this one. But combat wise, too, you said it's an upgrade combat wise. What's new with the combat? Is it fun? Is it kind of button mashy?
It is still button mashy. It feels like very like hack and slashy from Automata, and I don't know. It's much easier to play and less stilted. Like it doesn't feel as wooden as it might have like 10 years ago. It feels heavily inspired by Automata's combat. So it's really pretty to look at. It's like really flashy and whatnot. But there isn't like a lot of strategy or like pre-planning going into your fights. And I guess for some people like that might push them away, but I don't know. I think it's a little nice having like streamlined controls like that. You're like mixing light and heavy attacks and mixing combos together, and it all looks really nice, so you don't have to really worry about being like particularly skilled at the game or anything like that.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, it sounds cool. I'm excited to check it out. Any final thoughts? Any other things that the game does really well you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, sure. The music is just incredible. I mean, the Nier games have always had great music, but as someone who played Automata and really loved the music there and the way they use Chaos language, and for anyone who doesn't know what Chaos language is, it's like a mixture of more than one language to create like a really like familiar but kind of creepy conlang, like something that like you've heard these languages before, but it's almost a completely new language. And if I can remember correctly, some of these songs are using like French, Japanese, English, Spanish, Gaelic, like all together in one.
Gaelic,
and
the true chaos language.
yeah, there you there you go. No, but it's just really interesting to like hear these like sounds mixed together to create like this really great sonic backdrop for the game. Like at the like just like if you're not a fan of Nier at all, like I just there's no way you're not going to be a fan of the music. The music is just out of this world. I've never really heard anything else like it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, the full review is on the site, like we said, 825. Good game, especially if you're a fan of the series. This is definitely one worth checking out. And if you're just in the mood for a cool action RPG, you might also hit the spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I know you guys are on a limited time frame here. You got to get running. I think Chris is coming after both of you, so you guys might want to go hide. But we're going to bring in some other people and continue this playlist. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Alex and I are still here. Hey, glad we got rid of those guys, right, Alex?
Oh, thank God. They never shut up.
Yeah. I had to bring in some heavy hitters. I got Marcus Stewart.
Hey, the heaviest of the hitters.
The heaviest. That's right. And some level of hitter, Andrew Reiner, president of video games.
Yeah, AA, AAA. Ben, where do you put me, man?
I don't know.
What kind of hitter am I?
Classifications of hitters. What's heavier than heavy? Uberweight hitter?
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
He's the cleanup
Take
man.
that, Marcus.
He's at 4th or 5th spot.
You know what? I'll take it. Fine.
And since we're speaking of hitters, Reiner, this week you've been playing a hit game.
Yeah, the hideous of all games. Is that a word? This is MLB The Show 21, the annualized baseball game from Sony San Diego. For over a decade plus, it's been a game that you found every year on PlayStation consoles and handhelds. You know, it used to be on Vita and PSP when Sony was giving us stuff we wanted, like handheld units. They really got to make a new one for PS5. I want it really bad. But that's a quick aside.
I can't wait until they shut that store down for the new they haven't announced. Anyway, moving on to MLB.
Yeah, this is the first time that that series is migrating over to other systems. It is a first-party Sony game that is going to be on Xbox, right? Like it's on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One. Not only that, but it's day one as of Tuesday on Game Pass. So if you are a subscriber to Game Pass, you could just download the entire MLB 21 experience and play through it. Whereas on PlayStation, you got to pay $60 to play the show.
Wild.
Yeah. It's $70, isn't it?
I don't know. Yeah, there's
money means
Jackie
nothing,
Robinson
right?
Editions, like over 100. The game prices are all over the place these days, but yeah, you got to pay full price for it. Is the long story short, right? Which is crazy. Like it's a very strange statement right out of the gates for MLB being on Xbox, and it seems like if you just want to test it out, go check it out on Game Pass. Both versions, by the way, I've played through both of them. Not played through them, but I've played a bit on both Xbox and PlayStation 5. I would say they're right there. They're perfectly even in terms of performance. Load times are fantastic. Those next-gen qualities that we get from our consoles where you have 5-10 second loads. That's present, and that's a huge upgrade over these baseball games of old where if you did those games where you just zoomed forward to your every at bat, so you just had like 4 at bats in a game and you could get through that in like a minute, you'd be sitting through like a minute and a half load, like you'd be spending just as much time in the loading screens. So that is a very clear and present next gen quality that really kind of brings this up another notch. This kind of tried and true baseball experience that Sony has been knocking out of the park year in, year out. Just a couple dips in that career of theirs. It's fantastic to be able to get to games very quickly. Graphics look fantastic, very smooth. The transition from batting to the fielding screen, sometimes that would have a hiccup. I haven't seen that yet on either console. Just very smooth, 60 frames per second. The lighting looks fantastic. Player hair still not where it should be. That's the one thing that I think the Uncanny Valley really stands out in is like, that hair looks very last gen, where everything else is like, wow, look at the detail in the fabric and the field and the stands and the clarity that you have. But yeah, just the hair is the one thing where they need work still.
Do they have full stands or do they have some kind of like COVID mode?
They do. No. Yeah, they have full. COVID doesn't exist, but that's an interesting point, Ben. So COVID doesn't exist in this MLB universe. Everybody's together. It's like the Texas Rangers approach to
Everybody's
the pandemic,
kissing and
apparently.
hugging.
But you are reminded of the pandemic, though, after the game concludes. If you're in Road to the Show or some of these modes, they will bring up podcasts of people from MLB Network, from MLB The Show's team, famous baseball players giving analysis and commentary on your Road to the Show character. But they're doing that from people's homes. So you have varying qualities of video recording. Like the MLB The Show people, are like Alex Stadnick's screen, very high def and like very professional. But then you'll have other people that didn't invest as much in their cameras or their sound system. So you have this kind of weird quality gap that's present. And you're reminded of the pandemic, of all those Zoom meetings you've been on, working from home, and it's very present. And I would say of all the games I've played, in the last year and a half, this one screams of the pandemic the most, just in those moments where you're just like, oh, these are the corners, here's their solution for making this idea they had, realizing it during the pandemic. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, how's the actual batting, the bat play, let's say, the moment to moment action? Is that fun?
What baseball fans love. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for all the nitty gritty baseball terms, listeners.
They're still using the timing system. They have all the difficulty sliders, it adapts to how well you're doing. If you have dynamic difficulty on, that's all legacy stuff. There's not much new in terms of the batting, different animations. Different waggles for superstars. I think that's a term you'll like, Ben. Remember that one. That's their kind of the way they bat, how they move in the batter's box, what they do before the pitch. They have a bunch of more of those. They're really just trying to bring out the realism of the sport, realism of each player. Pitching's different. So there's a new pinpoint pitching system that they added. In the past, you would do timing-based meters, right? Like that was kind of the best one they have. There's they have all sorts of different ways you can pitch. But that was one of the things that was kind of their best solution in being able to do pinpoint, like if you're on with your timing, you'll hit the corners. You'll be, painting the corners. If you're a little off, might be a little further in on the plate. If you really miss, you're going to serve up a meatball or be way out of the zone, maybe a wild pitch, right? Now they're trying to kind of mimic the spin and the hand motions of throwing a pitch itself with analog based movement. So curveball, you're really flicking your wrist. So you're going to do like an analog movement like this, and you're kind of painting a line, right? Almost like a Mario Party mini game. You're trying to be very true to a line, and any kind of deviation off that lowers the percentage of accuracy. And it's also timing based. So you also have to be in a rhythm. You can't go very slowly. Like you're in motion with the pitcher doing this timing. I found it to be very difficult. There's a lot of gameplay to it, like fastball, slider. You got all these different motions, which I think are very cool. From a gameplay standpoint, you're doing a lot more. You're more focused on it. But I just like I think the one that really speaks to baseball is that timing system. I just think that one seems to be the most consistent. I would be doing like 95% accuracy on my motions and timing, and the ball wasn't going where I wanted it. And it didn't feel right. So I reverted back to the timing based system. So I think I wouldn't call it a swing and miss by Sony with this new pitching mechanic, but it is not as good as what they had in place. So I'd put it, down a notch. But otherwise, go ahead.
Are you stuck with it, or can you like change to like classic controls or something like that?
Oh, you can change it at any time.
Okay.
Pitch to pitch. You can change the difficulty, the mechanics you're using. Fielding is silky smooth. Players take better trajectories to field balls off the wall. It's very fluid. If you're controlling the player, they still look like a bat out of hell. You're probably going to run into the wall and all that. You're just like, I don't want that to land. Whereas the computer will pull up knowing they can't catch it. But it looks very good, very fluid. It's just such a dynamic experience that they put together. Just the iteration that's gone into this series year after year after year just continues to pay off. And it's such a great foundation to build on. And they're going to continue doing that. And all the modes, there's nothing new. That's the one thing, in terms of modes, there's no new real experiences to go into like they have in the past. They haven't really introduced anything that you can call, like a different experience. You're basically going back into Diamond Dynasty, getting cards, going through those player moments. again, they've created all sorts of new player moments, right? Like Chili Davis is there on day one. You know, that's a player I didn't know much about. So I liked going through his career and seeing like, oh, here's his highest OPS or his second highest. And you get to play through that moment. And here's where
his
you
actual name Chili?
Yeah. Yeah, he's super cool. He has one of the best waggles in baseball, by the way. He just looks like he's not ready to bat. He's just kind of standing there. And you know, Jackie Robinson, you play through you know, his big moments, and they just keep adding more of those over time. Diamond Dynasty, again, a great way to spend your time. They've enhanced Road to the Show. You can now be a two-way player. That means like Ohtani on the Angels, you could be both a batter and pitcher. So you could design your character that way and get the best of both worlds. You're not just locked into that one role. Every 5 days you can be a starter, and then you can DH the next day and then play first base the next 3 days or 4 days, right? It's really, I think that's a really rewarding experience because you can bring your Road to the Show character now who has like a dynasty or a Destiny-like loadout that you're equipping different gear on them, like sunglasses. Give him, for whatever reason, sunglasses might give him better accuracy or, you know, better clutch hitting or batting gloves, you know, help, or the bat helps. So you're giving, you know, you're getting loot as you play the games, but you could bring your Road to the Show character or player into Diamond Dynasty now for the first time. So you're not just using, you know, legends and MLB players. You can actually have your character, your player there, and have them grow in both ways, right? In Road to the Show, and then also in Diamond Dynasty with the loot they're getting.
Yeah. Is the Rookie of the Year kid in there? You can place him?
Not yet. I would love to see that. He could throw like 120 miles an hour or something like that.
Oh yeah.
They should add. Yeah, they should add all of the Hollywood baseball players.
Angels in the outfield.
You know, Kevin Costner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then you'll get bored with this. All right.
Airbud.
Angels in the outfield
Did they ever
mode.
make a baseball version of Airbud?
I think so,
Oh, sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that.
Yeah.
What was his name, man?
I just want Hey Arnold's team. I want Gerald.
I just wanted to ask too, my father-in-law is a huge baseball fan, but he doesn't play video games. Is this something where you could like introduce somebody who's not a video game person? You think they would enjoy this? Yeah.
So they really thought about the new Xbox crowd. So there are tutorials everywhere, which is a little annoying for people that have been playing this series every year. But when you even go into the menus, they give you a tutorial on like, here are things you should be doing. You know, in Diamond Dynasty, especially where it's just overwhelming you with content, they're like, here's how you do this and this and this and this. So if this is your first MLB game, this is a great one to start with.
And
it really will walk you through it.
This game will make him love me more?
Yes, I think so. I think he will leave you his entire, fortune in his will.
Oh,
yeah.
Great. I don't know what he has, but I want it.
A bunch of baseball equipment.
It'll be MLB The Show 21.
Perfect. Yeah, just that. Great. You're still working on the review, I think, but
I don't have a score yet, but it's, you know, I can tell you right now, it's a great game. You know, like it's awesome. Like you will not find obviously a better baseball game this year, but also if you go years back, like this is the one to play. It's really good.
Awesome. Sounds good. And yeah, as you said earlier, it's on Xbox Game Pass. So there's that, which is
check it out.
You know, wild thing to have happen, but sounds cool. You've been playing anything else, Reiner?
A lot of Fortnite with my daughter. We're playing duos like you wouldn't believe. That game continues to impress me. But the one thing I want to point out real quick, Ben, is not the game itself, but the Batman / Fortnite 0 Point comic book series just came out yesterday for listeners. This is a big deal. It's already starting to sell for like $30-$40 on eBay. The first issue, it comes with a digital code to get gear in the game. So you're getting like a new Harley Quinn skin. That's a hard thing to say. A new Batman skin, all sorts of different gear in this 6-issue run. So people are just snatching these up. But it's actually, I read the first issue and it's really well done. Like they really kind of hold true to the comic or the game where. So Batman he gets sucked into Fortnite Island through this dimensional rift, just like the Mandalorian, all that stuff, you know, during their last season. And when he gets there, his memory's gone. He remembers how to fight and, you know, he's still this super detective, but he cannot he sees Catwoman and he doesn't know what it is, but he's like, she seems kind of familiar. But he can't talk. So he's like like the characters in the game. So they start fleshing out the lore of Fortnite in the game. You can hear his thoughts, but they can't communicate to each other, just like in the game, right? Like, and yet he feels like someone's controlling him as well. So they're doing this kind of cool, like serving both universes. Like you're getting the best of Batman as the detective, trying to figure this out. He's doing memento stuff because every 22 minutes, the circle constricts, the storm constricts on the island, and then they reset. So he's leaving notes to himself, like this happened before is the first one. And he's trying to figure out the mystery, but he knows someone's controlling all this. And I talked to the creative team behind the comic, and they're like, issues 4, 5, and 6 are going to reveal huge Fortnite lore, things like secrets that are going to unfold in this comic book series. But they're also teasing like, someone's controlling Fortnite Island. Someone's controlling these people that are coming here. Like I don't know. It's fascinating. I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of times when there are games that go to comics, it's like, this isn't so great. But I think this one is really good. And if you play Fortnite, you get free gear with it. So check that out. I think it's cool.
Weird thing. I guess that's cool, and it's always nice to hear when one of those projects is actually good. So
yeah, I was going to ask like how
the opposite.
I was like, how far did he take the memory thing? Does he remember his lack of parents? Like, does he look at him in the mirror and he's like, "Why am I dressed like a?
Why am I dressed like this?" Yeah,
he's just going to break down and cry for the next 3 issues. Yeah, I don't know. But it was just the first issue, and it's a very quick read. Given a lot of the characters don't speak, and you're just getting thoughts of Batman every once in a while. Anyway, so I'm doing that.
Is Batmite in Fortnite yet?
Not yet.
Spider.
Let me know. You gave him a great idea.
I'm ready to check in then. All right, moving on. Marcus.
Hey,
I've been teasing this Oddworld review for several weeks now.
Really?
Yeah, because I started playing it. I was like, hey, this game isn't too bad. This could be cool. And then I played a little bit more, and I was like, that's maybe a little bit rougher around the edges than I thought. And then I talked to you, who finished the game, and what were your thoughts on it?
I don't like it.
Oh, no.
Those are my thoughts. Unfortunately, I wanted to like it. Yeah. So Oddworld Soulstorm. So it's supposed to be like it's a follow up to New and Tasty, which was like the remake of the original Abe's Odyssey, and it's also kind of a reimagining of Abe's Exodus. So if you're familiar with those games, it's like 2D cinematic platforming where you're making your way through all these kind of like not quite labyrinthian, but like these like pretty involved platforming levels with like enemies everywhere and traps that can kill you in a heartbeat. And you're just trying to guide your little Mudakin followers to safety.
Mudakin, I believe it's.
Is it Mudakin? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I kept hearing it and my brain still defaults to like Mudakin.
You're just trying to shut out as much of this game as you can.
That's kind of where I'm at this point. So I finished it. My review's up on the site.
Let's not bury the lead. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 5.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So I kind of had the same thing as you, Ben, where like I like Oddworld, and I played a fair bit of Abe's Odyssey back in the day, as well as a New and Tasty back when that came out. And I remember playing New and Tasty and thinking like, oh, this hasn't quite aged as well as I thought it would, because it's like that game's more of just like a visual enhancement than anything. So it's like, oh wow, a lot of the traps in this game were like BS, and there's like very little margin for error, and it's really frustrating having to kind of like redo, like kind of carefully retracing your steps of like, all right, I need to carefully sneak past this guy and get my followers past this point and hope that they're not stupid and get caught on something or whatever. And I was kind of excited for the idea of a modernization of that, of like, how can they, because I like the format of it, but I was like, I want it just to be refined and less infuriating. And Soulstorm doesn't really address that at all. If anything, it kind of introduces a couple more headaches, some unintentional due to technical hiccups, where it's just like, if you're a fan of those old games, you might get some enjoyment out of this, maybe. But I think the further you get into it, I just personally don't think it's aged that well. I think the margin for error is just way too thin. You have a health bar, but it may as well be meaningless because everything kills you instantly. Like the moment something sees you, it just mows you down. You have no chance to escape, which can be infuriating because you can slip up a lot. The platforming and movement is better, which is nice. Like Abe has a double jump now, But even then, the control scheme, which is largely the same, has like a kind of like unresponsiveness to it. Like it feels like you just have to press things either twice or like hold it down for anything to activate. So even stuff like possessing the sligs or calling your followers just takes a little bit more effort than it should. And that starts to build on you after a while because you have to react to things going sideways faster than the game allows you to a lot of the times.
I really had trouble with the landmines. Do you have trouble with the landmines? The timing always felt off to me.
And
like you have to walk up to a landmine and hit the button right as it turns green. But yeah.
Like there were so many times where I blew myself up. I was like, it feels like I should have gotten that. And losing in this game can set you back really hard because a lot of those segments can take about like 30 minutes, maybe even an hour to get through because of how complicated they are. Because it's like taking the time to carefully assemble a house of cards and then a gust of wind just blowing it over and then having to do it again especially because the 4 endings depend on how many followers you save overall. So you kind of want to go out of your way to find as many of them as you can. So there were times where I would just restart a stage because I was like, well, I just lost like 3 people to nonsense and I don't want that. Or to things that you just don't expect. Like there were times where like I got gunned down off screen by an enemy, even though they have vision cones. I would get shot just suddenly. I was like, I wasn't even like, how was I supposed to know that guy was there? Unless like it's a lot of like trial and error, right? Or like you have a question.
Yeah, is there a fart button?
No, there isn't.
Oh, now I see why you gave it a 5.
Yeah, good lord.
Yeah, I didn't get it before, but now I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you can still communicate with your followers, but it's mostly like follow or stay, or you can have them attack now. So you have like a passive button that kind of like passive and aggressive that kind of replaces the fart options because
replace the fart. Like that's just like the heart and soul of that.
Yeah, the fart and soul, some would say. So like there's these combat arenas where they'll lock you in an area and like visually this looks cool because you'll see your followers kind of in the background and they're kind of like there's like dozens and dozens of them like running away trying to escape, and there'll be enemies that show up to try to gun them down, and you're trying to take as many of them out as quickly as possible to try to save as many of them. And there's like multiple rounds of this of like you get your group through one round and you go to the next one and try to do it again. And I hated those because it feels like you're just outmatched to the enemies because they react so fast. They're just quicker at the draw. And the way you attack them is that you have like you can throw things at them like you could in the old games, but the throwing doesn't feel tight at all and not satisfying when you hit people, and lining up those shots just takes way longer versus how fast enemies can gun you down. And, the idea of the game is supposed to be kind of more stealth of like, you're better off trying to sneak up on dudes and take them out. But those moments kind of put you like, you kind of have to face them head on more or less. And then it gets more frustrating.
Well, I was just gonna say, we don't need to belabor the point. I mean, people can read the review. It sounds like a lot of your issues too stem from like the game is super buggy, which hopefully they can fix. But I think one thing I noticed is it's like just old school game design that just doesn't feel fun anymore, where you'll hit a checkpoint and then you'll have to like do this very precise timing jump. And if you don't nail it, you got to restart and the checkpoint's kind of far back, or you have to like anticipate a death that you don't know is coming until you do it. That kind of stuff. It's kind of frustrating to play.
Yeah. Same with the crafting system, which is the big new thing of like, you have to gather a bunch of ingredients to make stuff, which really doesn't feel that necessary for that game, and becomes an annoyance because the way checkpoints work is that you can only use it once. So whatever state you were when you use the checkpoint is where you're at. And a lot of the checkpoints are situated before you go into an area where you have to gather a bunch of ingredients to make weapons that you need to get past an area. So every time you die, you have to keep regathering those ingredients and then going into the menu to make it again. And so when you're doing that over and over and over again, it really wears on you. And it's like, I wish I could just go back to the checkpoint to resave so I don't have to do this again, but you can't until you find another one, which is after the fact. So like little things like that. And then, of course, all the bugs, which I believe, Ben, there was a patch that went out recently that I think did some kind of rebalancing for the difficulty and addressed some stuff. So some of the things I ran into might be taken care of, hopefully, because it wasn't little things. It was like progress sabotaging bugs that I was running into where like followers would disappear randomly when I respawned. So I lost out on turning in dudes I spent like a half hour trying to get. or like the spawn portal would disappear, or certain mechanics wouldn't work when they were supposed to, and I would have to keep restarting the level. So that stuff is what kind of brought my score down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even without that stuff, though, it sounds like it's not a super great time, but
Yeah.
what a bummer. Sorry for making you relive all that stuff, Marcus. But I'm also glad you're here because I've been playing a game that I think you've also been playing that is actually good. It's a game called Before Your Eyes.
It is good. It
which
is
you reviewed, and I played and enjoyed. So I think I got better into that. But this is the weird game where you can. I played it on PC, and it uses a webcam to sort of capture your actual face and track when you blink. And a lot of the game deals with like you're reliving a person's life, and at certain moments you'll blink and skip forward in time. So you started as a baby, and you might blink, and then like a couple of months will go by, or you blink, and like 5 years might pass. So it's really like kind of a very emotionally driven story about a person's life and what it means. What was your take on that game?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool, and I was pleasantly surprised by how well the blinking worked. Because it's pretty much a point and click adventure game that you play with your eyes. So you're like looking around and like blinking at select like interactions to trigger things. And I think that so you finished it, Ben, right?
I have not finished it, actually. I know it's only like a couple hours long, but I'm really close to the end and I got pulled away. So to do this podcast.
Of course. Gotcha.
Yeah. But it's really good. I mean, what I played is really good, and I hear the ending's really good as well.
Yeah, I just think like it works so well, and it's such a magical feeling of like I put in my review that it's like using those old school Viewmasters, like those little toy things that you would flip through. It's like that. And the way that it kind of uses it in a clever way, like closing your eyes during certain moments to eavesdrop. So like the volume will increase when you close your eyes, or just even little things like your friend telling you to close your eyes, like, hey, I want to leave you something. Don't look, I'm embarrassed. And you're like, okay. And then you hear her like dropping something off and running away. And you're like, all right. Like that stuff was just so endearing and so clever. And it also, the writing goes a long way. Like I think the performances in the game are actually excellent. Like it's a small cast. It's pretty much just your two parents and your best friend for the most part. And you don't spend a lot of time with them. Like you said, it's only a couple of hours long, but I was amazed at how attached I was to them by the end of the game, just because I think the writing is great. And yeah, I think that, you can play the game traditionally with a mouse, just clicking around if you don't want to use your eyes for whatever reason. But I honestly think you'd be doing yourself a disservice, because I think that just the premise of the story of like reliving your memories and realizing that, even the fondest memories can be fleeting. I think that blinking mechanic does a good job, and it can be maybe a little frustrating when you just blink involuntarily because, you're human and you'll skip forward. But I kind of like that, honestly, of like someone just mid-conversation, you're just like, oh, I'm already to the next thing. And I didn't find it like super disrupting to the story either. Like I don't know how, but like I think they managed to kind of front load a lot of the important stuff in the beginning, and then anything that you might miss is more kind of like supplementary. Because when I replayed it the second time with just the mouse, I could just sit as long as I wanted and just let everything play out. And it's like, okay, like they designed this in a smart way where like there's not anything crucial at the end of this usually. And then the ones that they kind of tell you like, hey, keep your eyes open, and they keep the scene long enough to where it's not uncomfortable to keep your eyes open that long. But yeah, it's hard to talk about the story without spoiling things.
Yeah, I don't think we need to. I think it's a really cool game, and it's a nice, short indie game that people should check out. It's called Before Your Eyes. Reviews on the site if you want to check it out. Marcus read it.
I gave that an 8.5. So
not a better than a 5.
Yeah, much better.
It's significantly better.
It's got an 8 with it.
So yeah, definitely check that out, and probably be prepared to cry.
Oh no.
Cool.
Which would be a problem because it'll make you blink.
Yeah. But in a heartfelt way. Yeah. All right, Alex, real quick before we go, is there anything you want to update? Anything you've been playing that you think is worth talking about?
I was going to say, speaking of short little indies that are a really good time, I think Nintendo's Indie World Showcases are some of my favorite digital events. I think they do a great job of gameplay. this is out now, this is out now, this is out in 2 months. I think it's what they're doing is fantastic. A part of that last week was that they dropped Fez, which I haven't got super deep into, but Fez, it's great. But the one I hadn't experienced.
First time playing it?
No, I played it on Xbox 360 back in the day when it came out. Loved it, got stuck as a stupid adolescent. I was like, it's not Halo, and I kept moving on. So, but
well, you're right. It's not Halo.
yeah. So I'm gonna get through that. But the game I'm almost beat from that indie showcase was There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension, which I know was on PC before, and you had played it before, Ben, correct?
Yeah, I talked about it earlier this year. If you remember, it's like basically a point and click adventure game.
Yep.
Where it reminds me of the book. There's a monster at the end of this book. Is that what it's called? It's the one with Grover.
Oh,
in
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
which you may have read as a kid. But it's really cool because it starts out as like, there's no game here. Don't. And then you kind of keep clicking on things and you find out that there is a game.
Yeah. There's this narrator with you who is the game, right? And the beginning is you're fighting against him basically to like crack into what the game is. And then you continue to play. And you find, and like you said, they lean into the point and click adventure stuff, but the writing is really good in it. And like, I was surprised by the amount of character work they were able to do with just this, voice of God character. And then the shenanigans that follow that. There are definitely some moments where I was like, how the hell do I get through this? Because like, it's a point and click thing. So you really only have the page to work with. And if you miss a piece of dialogue, right, the hint dialogue, you're kind of stuck. But they do a really good job of giving you a hint system where it's like tiered, where it's like they'll give you a general one, a more specific one. And then if you're really dumb, like yours truly, they will just be like, it's right here, dude. Like, really? So I really like the mix.
You never needed the hint system in Halo.
No, I did not. Because I was busy fragging the entire time, baby. Overkills for days.
Yeah. How does the game work? Are you using the Switch's touchscreen?
So you can also use the analog controls, which is a bit clunky because it takes a little while. If your cursor is all the way on the left side of the screen and what you need to click on is on the right, because there's some time sequences, right, where you have to put certain pieces of the environment in a timed manner, right? So it's like, oh crap, if I got to drag it all the way over here and then bring it all the way over there, that's your only option if you're playing on your TV, which I would recommend more handheld. This is just kind of a chill, fun game. But yeah, like it's much quicker to do touch, but it's weird. I don't really think of my Switch as a touch platform as much anymore.
But it's still a great game.
Yeah. Outside of that, like if you want something that's short, I've played it maybe like 3 hours and I'm almost done. I'm on the final chapter. If you want something short that has a surprisingly like fun and good story, like and some funny writing, like definitely check it out. I don't think it's on sale anymore. It may be, but it was part of that whole indie showcase. But if you're looking for something quick and short, definitely give it a try.
Awesome.
And
Great recommendation.
Oxenfree 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to play Oxenfree 1 now, finally.
Oh,
yeah.
Good game.
Get on that, man.
Yeah. Do it right now?
Go.
Yeah.
Play it right now.
Okay. Yeah. I'll get out of here.
Alex is going to go play Oxenfree 2, so let's take a break and we'll come back for emails at some point. Welcome back, everybody. I still got Reiner, Marcus, and Alex here. Alex, how was Oxenfree?
Oh, it was the best. Like, you don't even know. Like, Oxenfree 2 is just going to be next level.
Can't wait. Yeah, can't wait until they do all the story stuff that they set up from the first one.
It was so good. The spooky stuff and Stranger Things vibes. It's a whole thing. Definitely go check it out.
You definitely.
We waited for you 8 hours.
Yeah. On this call, too. You couldn't do anything else.
I'm glad you're here because we've been waiting to do these emails that just keep coming in and they're piling up. So we got to answer a few of these and get them out the door. These are emails that people send in, podcast@gameinformer.com. We'll take anything. Like I always say, emails, questions, if you want to send in a game, we love games, podcast@gameinformer.com. This first one from Anthony from Phoenix says, when I enter a new video game franchise, I usually try to start at the earliest release in the series. There are times, however, when I'm limited and have to start a plot midway through. My first Halo was ODST. My first Assassin's Creed was 2. My first Dragon Age was Inquisition. So, are there any major franchises that you began midway through? P.S. This doesn't really count, but the first Final Fantasy I bought and beat was 13 and 13-2. I think he says it doesn't count because Final Fantasy is always the start of something new rather than like midway through a single narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you guys?
2/3 of the way through, actually. For me, it was Witcher 3. I hadn't touched a Witcher game up until that point, and then the good folks at Game Informer and the rest of the industry was like, "This is a revelation. This game is incredible." And so I dove in at that point, and I'm happy I did because then I haven't gone back and played the first 2 games, but I started reading the books and watched the Netflix series, and it's very good. It is one of the most fleshed out fantasy worlds we have in games, and I really enjoyed it. And I feel like that was the best place to jump in combat wise too. From what I've heard, those first 2 games aren't super like clean and polished, even though, some people don't like the combat in Witcher 3 in general. But I mean, I didn't feel like I was missing. The writers of that game did a great job of like really telling a present story and then just like filling in the back and like, making it worth it for longtime fans, right? But not making me feel too lost.
Mine might be cheating a little bit, but the first Halo campaign I ever played, because before that, I didn't have an original Xbox as a kid, so I only played like LAN parties of 1 and 2. But I played Halo Reach first, which is like several entries into the series, but it's also a prequel to the first game. So it's like a weird thing, and that's why I played it of like, maybe this doesn't matter. So like I still didn't have the significance of what I was playing. I didn't know this was like an event that had been like referenced in the other games. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. I guess it ends badly for these people. But then I jumped straight from Reach to Halo 5. So I played like the earliest and the latest.
You're crazy.
And I only played Halo 5 because it was like Xbox did like a free weekend where they just unlocked the game. And I was like, well, it's free. I may as well, like, why not? I don't care. So I played through the entire campaign, had no idea what was happening. I was like, oh yeah, that's that Cortana people talk about. Arbiter, he's a big deal, I guess. I don't know. So like when people were saying like, oh, I hate this story, I was like, I guess, I don't know. But I have since played all the games and then replayed 5. So now I have the context for it. But yeah, I was all over the place with that series.
It's like when I watched Aliens 3, and that was the first Alien movie I watched. I was like, it wasn't that bad. I don't know why everybody complains about it.
Better than Resurrection.
That's a backwards way into that one.
Yeah.
I
would have quit if I started with
remove
3.
that memory from your brain so you can go back.
Yeah.
It did, like, it was interesting though, because I was like, this isn't that bad. But then you watch Aliens and you're like, oh, all the stuff they set up, and they kind of just the third movie, you're just like, never mind.
I guess it's like if you've only eaten Burger King, right? That's all you know. But then you get like filet mignon with aliens and Alien, and then it makes that last one taste just garbage, awful, terrible.
That's right. In retrospect, I'm like, oh, why did I eat that burger 2 days ago?
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a ton of examples like this, but like, I don't know, GTA 3 is where I started with that series. That felt like such a big shift. That's franchise.
Probably most people, just given the success of that, I think most people's first entry was that one. You're not missing much.
Oh yeah. No, well, even just
okay, larger, but yeah.
Well, the larger discussion, I went back and played 1 and 2, and I was like, I don't really want to play this that much. The larger discussion of, do you guys feel this pressure to start a series at the beginning, or if a new game comes out and everybody's talking about it, like, is it fine to just play that one?
Yeah, that's a pretty good setup for me, because Yakuza has always been like this blind spot for me, where I just, that series just kept going and getting bigger and bigger, and it became more like of like this thing I felt like I had to do, this telltale heart, right? Like, just like, you got to check it out. So when Judgment came out, I was like, okay, I'm playing Judgment, and I started playing Judgment, and I was an hour into it, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I need to go play Yakuza first. Like, I keep talking about doing this. I would every once in a while, like, download it, queue it up, start it, get through the intro cutscene, and then stop or whatever. Like, so I went back then, I stopped Judgment and started playing Yakuza 0 is the first one. I love it. Like, that series is amazing. Like, those games are incredible. I have a long ways to go. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get through all those. Like, it's just daunting. But at least now I know the beginning. I've played the new one as well, which I love. That's a good jumping on point for people if they don't want to go through, what is it, 0 to 6 or whatever it is now. But yeah, that was a big one for me.
Yeah, I've been working my way through Yakuza as well. I had a good time. Like Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2 were both fun games, and 0 was good. So recommend it for anybody out there.
I also started with Ms. Pac-Man and had to go back and play Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
All that lore
Yeah.
is lost on you, man.
Those little cutscenes, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have
too.
Yeah.
But I think too, just to like the larger point, like it don't feel a pressure to like I got to go back and play this whole series. Like if that's holding you up, like with Yakuza, and you're like I'm never gonna like play through all these games. Like don't let that be the thing that stops you from playing a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could also look up, I feel like a lot of modern games now are doing the thing where they do like the story so far kind of thing. Like Hitman 3 has that, where they have a giant cutscene that recaps those first 2 games. Kingdom Hearts 3 has the same thing. So you could always look up to see if those games have something like that before you dive into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
There are some people on YouTube that also make, great lore videos that will catch you up on stuff
Definitely.
if the game doesn't have it.
Yeah. I feel like for us, or at least for me, I should say, it feels like it's a professional thing too. Like with Ratchet, the new Ratchet game coming out, I'm playing like Going Command. I'm playing whatever the game preceding it is, right before it. So I feel like it's just to kind of be able to talk about it with some authority too, if you're missing out. So, but yeah, I get anxiety when I'm like jumping in midway. I'm like, who is everyone? What is going on? Like, why don't I know any of you?
I understand the anxiety. I'm just, encouraging people, if there's a good game they want to play the good game. Don't feel like you have to work your way through 7 entries and previous in the series.
Don't be like me. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to, more power to you. All right. Next email. Ben from the Outer Wilds writes in, says, one of my all-time favorite retro games is Bosconia. I'm not familiar with this. Are you guys familiar with this? I had to look it up.
No.
It's like a multi-directional arcade game. It's like a shooter, multi-directional shooter. Looks cool. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. He says he loves this game for its open space levels and fun combat, yet not many people know about the game. Yep. And it really shows up on any arcade game compilations. So what is one retro game you guys love, but don't think it gets the recognition it deserves?
See, deserves is a subjective term. It might be something I like that probably maybe no one else will be into, but I have 2 answers for this real quick. The first one is Fighting Force for PS1. I really loved that game at the time as someone that grew up with like Streets of Rage and Final Fight, like 2D brawlers. And when I had a PlayStation, like me and my younger brother were always looking for those kind of games. And they're like, hey, here's a 3D one of these. And we like had it on a PlayStation demo discs, and we just like went crazy for it. And we played it and we loved it. And I think when I became an adult, I like looked back on it and I don't think it reviewed super well at the time. But as a kid, I was like, I would ask people growing up, like, how has no one played Fighting Force? It was so cool. It was like a 3D Final Fight. And then I guess no one really liked it, but I was like, oh, I thought it was great. And I still maintain that it's not terrible. But I also haven't played it since like 97 or whenever it came out. And then the other one, and this is probably like just crossing the threshold into retro territory, but Jean d'Arc for PSP, which was a level 5 kind of turn-based strategy game about Joan of Arc, but like animated to hell. It's so good. And I remember playing it, and to this day, I've yet to meet someone personally that has played this game. But I know there's people out there. And it's literally just like a Fire Emblem kind of game where you're just going through a very dramatic retelling of the Joan of Arc story, but it's got these beautiful anime cutscenes. And Joan of Arc is basically a Power Ranger where she can transform into like legendary knight version of herself. And kind of like, here's a deep cut for any 90s kids. It's like the Fox Kids show Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog. And I'll wait. I eagerly await the comments to see if any remembers that show. But imagine Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog, but with Joan of Arc and Fire Emblem. And this game is great. It's never been ported as far as I know. I think it's still only on PSP, which is sad.
Strange. So many popular components, and yet hasn't been ported.
Unlike Fighting Force, I believe Joan of Arc or Jean d'Arc did review pretty well. So I think it deserves a mobile port. It never came to Vita or like Switch or something. I don't know what Level 5's doing with that license. But that game's really good if you're into those turn-based strategy games and you have a PSP laying around. Go pick it up.
A lot of hoops to jump through.
Mine is Karnov. Do you guys remember Karnov on NES arcade? He's the Soviet strongman, the biggest chest in the world. Alex, put up the poster. People could see the poster. He's just flexing. He's standing like he's got his foot on the head of a dead dragon. He's got a cool T-Rex next to him. I was like, this game looks cool. And I played it and I loved it. And it took me forever to beat it. And it just said, when you beat it, it just says, thank you for playing.
The best.
That's your reward. But it was made by Data East. They never made a sequel. He appeared as like a boss and enemy in different games. This strongman, the shirtless strongman. There's no shirt that could contain this chest, by the way. He is just a monster.
I'm familiar with that problem.
That's
Karnov?
Only hoodies, right? Only hoodies can contain it. But I always wanted a sequel. I always expected it would come back like Ghouls and Ghosts or Mega Man, but never did. And it was a really well-made game. So Karnov is my answer.
It's a good choice. I always mentioned Panzer Dragoon Saga. I don't feel like I need to like go through the whole spiel here, but it's a great game. It's the best Sega Saturn game. You should play it. Another one I wanted to highlight. You guys remember Rocket Knight Adventures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that game. I don't feel like people talk about it enough, and I haven't gone back to it since I played it back in the day. So maybe it hasn't aged well, and that's why. But
they remade it, didn't they, for PS3? Like,
did they?
Didn't they do like a modern remaster or sequel to that? There was like a new Rocket Knight in like the 360 and like PS3. That was like downloadable.
Yeah, go play it right now.
All right. See you guys.
Man.
No, not again.
Oh, come on. No, come back.
8 hours later.
Yeah. What a great joke.
Yeah, that's a great game.
How retro is 10 years old, right? That's what we consider. Like if it's past 10 years, right? Those are the replay rules, at least.
I think like 15. Yeah, or like 15.
Well, replay is past gen.
Oh, past gen. That's right.
That's true.
So it could be last year.
Yeah.
I'd say 15 years is good.
Okay.
For a car to be considered a classic, it has to be what, 25 years old?
Are we going by like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame rules?
Can we go by the rules so I can mention the game I'm thinking of, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Because this one's 11 years old. Do you guys remember Split Second, the arcade racing game?
Yeah.
That game is great.
That game was so good. It was like the best parts of like driving in like Forza Horizon mixed with an action movie. Like you be driving around, you trigger like planes coming and crashing down and buildings exploding and stuff like that. And it was just awesome to be able to like take out your buddies with just that crazy action set pieces. And the driving was actually really fun. I don't know why we didn't get more of that. Maybe it was just too expensive. I don't know. But like something like that and like the Frostbite engine from EA, where it's like you get a little bit more realistic destruction. Like I'm all for that. I love racing games that try to not be racing games, like just be crazy arcade experiences. And that one was so good.
I think the problem with it was just kind of a generic name. There were so many racers at the time, and it just kind of got lost in the shuffle, even though it scored really well.
Yeah.
I just don't think it got the proper marketing push, and it just kind of died on the vine, right? Even though it was awesome.
Yeah, because Blur was around then, and like the Need for Speed games, and like I think Horizon was starting to be a thing. Like, yeah, it was definitely oversaturated, but Split Second is so good.
Yeah, great game. Yeah, it feels like we don't have a lot of arcade style racers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask Alex, were you a fan of the Stuntman series back in the day?
I wasn't.
PS2?
Yeah, it's another one. You should check that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be right up your alley.
Stuntman? Okay.
I want to say it was on Game Pass for a while, but I don't know.
I'll check it out.
I'm sure you can find it at some point. All right. Next email, Joe from Roselle, Illinois. Not sure how you pronounce that. Joe writes in and says, I love this question, by the way. He keeps it short and to the point. Last video game ever made. What is it and who makes it?
So I had an answer for this quicker than I thought I would. So it would be in the far off future where we've mastered like virtual worlds. It would pretty much just be the movie Ready Player One, or like a Westworld? Yeah, Westworld kind of situation, right? Where like you just craft an entire digital world that is a game that everyone lives in, and it just has everything. Some might say, conspiracy theories, we live in that now. But let's just say that someone makes that, and it's just a matrix, and that is the game. It just, whatever you want to do. If you want to have superpowers, you can do Saints Row stuff, jumping around in buildings. Like that, you would never need to make anything other than that, because you are essentially the character, right?
Marcus, you're saying Fortnite is the last game ever made?
But what if you were in Fortnite? What if you were building houses in like 2 seconds and fighting Batman who doesn't remember who he is. That would be great, right?
You're just describing Fortnite.
Well, no, but like you're in it though. It's not Fortnite. It's like I'm not
You're
playing
like
it with
putting
a
your
controller.
consciousness into it.
Yeah, your consciousness, like everyone's consciousness is just uploaded to Fortnite cloud world. You know? And as far as who makes it though, here's the thing. Since it's the last game we'll ever need, it wouldn't be a single person or even a team. It would be like almost like a United Nations-esque council of all of the top game designers that just run this game. So imagine like the Hunger Games.
Man.
It'd be like,
You're taking all the game answers from us. Yeah.
It'd be like the Hunger Games where like they're sitting in a control room and they're like, the players over there are getting bored. What if we just had a volcano go up? And they like Hideo Kojima's like, yeah, I think that cutscene could be 30 minutes longer. Let's do that. They're just hitting buttons and they're just working together as just like a collaboration, a council.
So you think Miyamoto's still going to be alive when they make the last video game?
Yeah, he'll be like a head in a jar like Futurama, still giving out ideas.
He'll be
Like
the
Walt
first
Disney?
consciousness they inject into the game.
Yeah.
He's God
He's
there.
just-
He's like the lawnmower man. Yeah.
That's interesting. I was going to say Super Mario 3064 is going to be the last game.
Perfect.
Are they bringing
Yeah.
back more?
That's a
It'll
good
be
last
made.
one.
It'll be made by Disney.
Oh,
So I say if it's the end of time, like right now, we pick the best company that's making games right now. The one that has been the most consistent, I would say Naughty Dog. And they just give us this last great chapter, this story-driven experience, and then we all cry because games are going away and we're all going to die. And we have this last great Naughty Dog game, and that's the end.
It's called Charted.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all charted now.
has Naughty Dog absorbed every other studio at this point? Since that's kind of
No,
what we're doing?
I'm. It's just the same team.
Okay.
I'm not cheating like you are. Picking a real dev team in a real game scenario. I'm not turning the world into a video game.
You
It's
all
made
laugh
by every
now.
person ever.
You question my methods now, but I wait. Let's give it 10, 15 years.
Sure.
We'll see who'll be laughing.
Marcus is like, I'm not letting you in my game anymore.
Alex, do you have any thoughts on that? Or
I
should we
don't know
move
how
on?
I could possibly follow up any of that. I don't think I'd
Yeah.
want to play a Naughty Dog game just because, like, not because, well, I guess I'm thinking of it in the Last of Us lens, right? I don't want to be sad as the sun comes hurtling to us, right? I want to be happy. So something Nintendo. That's all I can
New
follow it up
IP
with.
from. What if it's a new IP from Naughty Dog? That's probably what they're doing right now, right?
Probably.
I guess if the
Is the
rumors are
world ending? Wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
Well,
What
I
if
guess they're remaking it or whatever. Yeah, who knows?
What if the last game is something we've been, like, I guess not really actively waiting for, but didn't expect, where Nintendo just announces The Legend of Zelda 3? Like, just
Ooh.
3?
because they've never done a numbered sequel after 2, and like they're saying like every other game after Zelda 2 doesn't count. Now here's Zelda 3.
Well, and even Legend of Zelda 2 wasn't called Legend of Zelda 2.
Zelda 2. It had 2 in the title.
It's like the Adventure of Link or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dante's
Zelda
Inferno
3, that's
2,
what they call it. That'd be cool.
And it's just,
then we're just going to hell. Anyways.
yeah, it's just everything you could ever want in a video game in Zelda 3. They've just been waiting until technology got to the point where they could do that.
Stop it.
Here's what I want. Real talk. Make a game called Legend of Link, and the main protagonist is Zelda.
Oh.
That's a good way to
something.
go.
That's something.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo closes their studio.
And then they're like,
they're done
we're
after
done.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's do one more email. This is Andrew from Riverside, California writes in, March Mayhem was great, but let's spruce things up a bit. I'll give you a list of teams and locations / environments, and they battle with a little bit of a twist. So you guys remember March Mayhem? We closed the door on that for the year, so this is definitely not that. All hail Bayonetta, our reigning champ. But Andrew wrote in, he's like, hey, I want to see you guys. Here's teams of characters fighting, and he's picked the location, and there's a little bit of a twist to the action. Does that make sense? We'll just get into it. He says, Sonic and Tails will battle Link and Zelda in a maze of corridors lined with crates, and the gravity is set to low. That's the twist. What do you guys think?
Zelda and Link. If the gravity is set to low, then that nullifies Sonic's running. So
Yeah.
you
His
can't take
ankles will just shatter.
Well, he'll be able to
But
jump
he couldn't.
super high, though.
But he can't run. He can't gain momentum if he takes a step and he's flying.
He could still do his like bounce move where he goes up and shoots down, right? Like in Smash.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't break his ankles then. He'd be rolling.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sonic.
Zelda has magic and can turn into Sheik. If we're going with that Zelda, I guess.
That's true.
I feel like, I mean, Tails, he can fly, so that the gravity thing doesn't matter. But like, he can't really do anything outside of fly. Like, he's not really a fighter.
He wouldn't.
I guess he
wouldn't have to though, because if Sonic gets a way to like stun one of them, Tails can just like fly up with one of them and then just drop them.
But Link has a shield though. He can block any like spin attacks. He's got his grapple hook. He can kind of like anchor himself to the ground if he needs to. He's got a lot of tricks, up his sleeve. Where Sonic has kind of got just his spin attacks, and again, his running is kind of negated here. So,
if gravity is set to low, let me ask you this: do arrows fly faster somehow, or hit harder somehow?
I guess the momentum that they're shot at continues for a while. They'll just, if it's arced, he'll just keep going, right?
It would go further.
I guess his ankles wouldn't break because he would float up, but also float down, right? Like,
that's true.
Yeah.
They would down.
They would just have kind of like a Dragon Ball Z, just like
you're not gaining momentum.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think maybe Sonic's speed is negated a bit, and Zelda and Link, they have weapons that they can shoot, where Sonic doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Zelda can shoot fireballs sometimes.
I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
Vision of Sonic having broken ankles. Like, what a twist.
Oh God.
I think they're doing that for the second movie.
That's like when Superman, when they got, the sun disappeared or whatever, the energy of the sun, and he didn't have his powers. Like, wow.
He's just man.
He's just dragging himself by his arms. Just close up shots of hands in the dirt.
I can't even open this orange juice. Like, wow. Humans are strong.
Lois leaves him. It's a whole thing.
Lois leaves Sonic?
Yeah.
They were a thing.
It was a side piece.
Tabloids. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next battle: Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong versus Gordon Freeman and Alex Vance. And they're fighting on the molten surface of Mustafar.
Yeah.
And then the twist is they're caught in the middle of a Predators versus Alien battle.
I think I got to give it to Donkey Kong.
Was not expecting that one.
It's my first.
Really?
Donkey Kong is strong. He's kind of a tank.
Stronger than like molten rocks getting hurled at them by a gravity gun.
Yeah. Hold on. Who has the high ground here?
Oh.
Sorry.
Fair enough. Good question.
I thought about it.
Is this a Star Wars reference? Is that what you were going with?
Yeah.
Don't do it, Anakin. So my thoughts were like, well, maybe so what about this? Gordon Freeman and Alex Vance, they know how to handle themselves around aliens, so they got an advantage there. But then maybe the Predators recognize them as the greater threat, and the Predators go after them. And so then Diddy and Donkey Kong would win by default because the Predators think they're just monkeys and like part of the wildlife.
Maybe. Or they get like Gordon being a man of science, and I guess Alex too. They'll get distracted because they'll see this alien war in the background. They're like, well, we want to observe that. We don't really care about this ape with a tie. It's not as interesting as what's happening around
And then
us.
DK just spins in and chops Gordon's head off.
Sorry, hold on. They would see aliens battling, and they would put down their guns and like take out their like telescopes, or what are you envisioning that they're doing?
They start taking notes.
All right. I think Diddy and Donkey Kong will both die from the acidic blood of the aliens because they're going to be melee based, and they're going to have to engage with them, and they're going to get that on them, and that's how they're going to go. So Alex and Gordon win just because they can keep their distance, and they have weapons to do that, right?
What kind of alien do you think would pop out of Donkey Kong though? After you got, I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to get a face hugger on him, and then some kind of like monstrosity is going to pop out of him, and it'll be the deadliest.
They would think those eggs are coconuts, and they're going to try to eat them, and they're going to get a face hugger.
You're right. Duh.
Yeah.
So the winner is Alien Kong.
Because the internet has already done this for us, I found a photo example of such a thing.
What?
I was like, there's no way this doesn't exist online. And I'm looking at a DeviantArt thing that literally is just a
course.
xenomorph with like Diddy Kong's hat and mouth. It's yeah, you don't need to see it.
Send that to me. That's gonna be on the pod.
Okay.
All right, you guys want one last final?
Yeah,
battle
these
here?
are fun.
Okay. We have Mario and Luigi versus Arthur Morgan and John Marston. And the location is around the dinner table of a dysfunctional family Thanksgiving. The twist is it's pitch black.
Whose family? Like both of theirs?
Did this person just
Probably
throw
a
in like
Marston family.
Yeah, probably, or like the Vanderling gang.
Yeah.
Did this person just go to a random word generator and like put in video games and like, all right, this is this, this is this, and this is this?
I think this email came from an AI.
It's pitch black, so neither of them can see. So who's better at?
And there's food, supposedly.
Ooh, that's true. Mario's familiar.
And a lot of
with food
people
levels.
yelling, so your senses are all messed up, right?
Like, Grandpa brought up politics, and that went down a dark road.
I think Mario, if he has his fire power up, he can shoot fireballs and light up the thing a little bit.
But then everybody takes that to, that's an advantage for everyone at some point.
But then he's a target too for the
True.
cowboys with their guns.
Also,
you know where the fireball's coming from.
True.
Do you guys ever, for Thanksgiving meals, do you guys ever cook anything with mushrooms?
No.
I think the only thing that has mushrooms traditionally is probably green bean casserole.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
So
It's
if Mario and Luigi get their hands on that,
Could be over.
Mm-hmm.
Problem
that's
here,
game
though.
over.
Problem here for the bros here. Luigi is scared of the dark. So, like, would Luigi just
that's
be
right.
rendered just totally useless unless he has like his flashlight gun?
I think he's just shaking
Yeah,
in
he's
the middle
just-
of the room.
Yeah, he's full of urine. He's done.
Yeah.
Full of
But
urine.
Mario is, Mario can carry his weight. We've seen that in the past.
Yeah.
So I
think,
don't know if the guns from Red Dead are going to do anything here. Deadeye vision isn't going to come into play. I guess if the fireball's thrown and it lights up Mario and Luigi enough, they can pause time, highlight both, and take them down.
Well, it's 2 versus 1, right? So Mario's doing all the work. So maybe everybody else in the room annihilates each other, and Luigi's the last man standing by default.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so they win. Yeah.
we're saying that the family is getting physically involved here. They're not just hanging
I
out.
thought they were
eating.
just yelling. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just yelling. They're having verbal.
I might
fight.
maybe I'll distract Arthur, and because Arthur especially, he's pretty chatty. He
Yep.
likes to chop it up with the crew. Maybe someone says something that he takes exception to, and he has to kind of like straighten them out. As happens at a lot of family gatherings, you're like, hey, let's go into the next room and talk about what you just said.
So he gets distracted by that, and then Mario throws a fireball at his head.
Yeah, because Mario, otherwise, I don't think he's going to make the first move here. I think it's going to be the Cowboys that kind of initiate this, right? Especially if this is like, I'm assuming this is Red Dead 1 John Marston, but like even then he's a little bit more impulsive than Arthur is. So he might jump the gun before Arthur's ready. And Mario's good. He's a good counter guy. They, pull out a mushroom and get big, absorb a bullet, only shrink back, and then take that chance to kind of stomp on someone's head.
True. If Mario was like super like giant Mario and he just stepped on him, it'd be done.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if that bean casserole is there, it's over.
And
That's the
Mario
only thing we can
loved
agree
it.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The green bean casserole is the key.
The key to everything is the screaming casserole. We need more details.
And
Hey.
Sonic with broken ankles is just really interesting. Like
Andrew,
misery
please
type of
write back
story.
in
What a
and tell us
beautiful-
if green bean
yeah.
casserole's there.
Yeah.
Or should I say AI, Andrew?
Bum, bum, bum.
So have we decided that Mario wins this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the
yeah.
lights turning on, everyone's dead, and Luigi's just like still shaking there. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
Mario!
Mario.
Mario, no!
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
That brings us to the end of our email segment. Thanks for writing in, everybody. We love those emails. Please send us more. We love to get them. Podcast@gameoformer.com. That brings us to the last segment of the show, a little segment we like to call Get Wrecked, where we recommend some things to check out online or in the magazine. I wanted to highlight, we're doing a lot of Mortal Kombat stuff this week, just in celebration of the film coming out. We have, just a reminder that interview coming up that you can listen to. And also, Brian Shea's been posting a lot of stuff. He wrote a Where's My Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks sequel. You guys remember that game?
Yeah, I want another one.
Yeah, so you're not the only one. So you can go read that article. It's kind of an opinion on why that game was cool and why there should be another one. Marcus, do you have anything you want to recommend?
Yeah, I guess Get Wrecked for saying it. Kim Wallace put an awesome retrospective on Bastion. It's kind of the first part of a larger feature going through that studio's portfolio of games and kind of the makings of each one. And so the Bastion look is really, really cool. I loved Bastion when it came out, and I love Supergiant in general. So if you're a fan of that studio or that game, there's a lot of kind of cool insight and information about the making that at least I didn't know about prior to reading it. Some great interviews and quotes. So yeah, definitely go check that out.
Alex, what about you?
We've been doing a couple of really cool interviews lately over at GI, and I think you guys should go check out the Nadeshot interview. For those who don't know, he is the CEO and founder of 100 Thieves, and he gave a really interesting interview about his process with that. 100 Thieves is like one of the biggest content like YouTube houses in the world right now. So be sure to check that out. And it is a good time. So check it out.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast last week, but if you want to listen to that full interview, that's up online. Worth checking out. Reiner, what about you?
We're hiring. So I want to recommend that. If you're looking for jobs, programmers, writers, designers, hopefully that stuff will be up on the site soon before this next episode airs. There's definitely going to be a programmer roll up. But yeah, I'm looking for talent and shoot me an email, reiner@gameinformer.com if you're interested. And I'll let you know when those postings hit. But yes, that is 100% my focus.
So you're saying people should recommend themselves to you?
Exactly. Yeah. Recommend yourself.
And we're only
Come
hiring
on.
cool people, though, by the way.
Yeah.
Only the coolest.
You
You can answer the hard questions of Mario versus the Red Dead Cowboys.
Yeah.
That's right.
That should be the writing prompt to get in.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah.
Don't fall for it, everyone. Cool. Well, thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Reminder, we have that interview coming up with Greg Russo, so please stick around for that, and we'll see y'all next week. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Marcus Stewart.
Hello. What's
Hey,
going on?
how's it going? And you and I were tag teaming this match because we have a very special guest, Greg Russo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing quite well, sir. Thank you for having me on your program here, your delightful program.
Yeah, this is an interesting interview. You are the credited screenwriter for the Mortal Kombat film, the newest one.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'd love to pick your brain a little bit. I'm just curious, how'd you get into that business? How does a person become a screenwriter for a video game film?
Well, you have to become a screenwriter first, I think, and then you if you do it good enough, somebody will give you a property like Mortal Kombat and let you take a crack at it. So yeah, it was growing up, being a huge gamer, wanting to kind of come in and work on some of those properties. I first had to just learn the craft. I had to study and work and fail many times over and over again. So in college, I studied this and then was broke out of college. So I went and became a headhunter for 4 years, where I was responsible for basically human trafficking people into different jobs. And then when I got enough money, I moved to LA and started just writing every day I could. And about I would say about 10 years later, I got the job to work on Mortal Kombat. So
Oh, wow. So it's been a long process then.
yeah, there's the old misconceptions of the overnight Hollywood success are definitely misconceptions.
Sure.
Takes a while.
Now, is being broke a prerequisite to being a writer?
It is. Yeah, it is. You have to lose everything before you can achieve anything. It's written in the Writers Guild.
Yeah, they got to break you down and then reshape you in their
Build
image.
you back up.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned 10 years, which sounds insane. You could become a doctor in that time. And you were a doctor in Mortal Kombat, I assume. What did that process look like at the very beginning?
Yeah, different kind of doctor on that for sure. It was, it was. So I think the fifth writer that worked on the reboot overall. And yeah, when I got the script, I took a look at it, and I just, the reason I'm there is because I'm trying to help it. I'm trying to fix it, right? I'm trying to make it the best it can be. So you look at it, you analyze it, and then you come up with a plan of attack. You come up with a plan to try to fix it and to make it yours. And that's what I did. It was something then. I won't really speak to what that script really looked like so much, but I could see that there was a path towards getting it where it needed to be, and that's exciting. And then it was 5 years. Then I was on the movie for 5 years, so I was definitely on it the longest, and into production too.
Sure. What's it like? Mortal Kombat has a rich lore at this point. It has a lot of characters. What was it like managing all those characters and trying to make a cohesive narrative out of it?
Yeah, so huge challenge, right? We're talking about a property that has 25 years of mythology. We're talking about 70 or 80 characters. I'm not sure how many they have. And we're talking about 2 hours of screen time, right? So I don't have a ton of time to tell a story, especially something that deals with so much, ingrained lore. So, the first thing you got to do is you got to figure out what's your path. How are you going to tell a satisfying story in 2 hours, and what pieces of the mythology can I extract that are that so that it remains faithful to the mythology, but that it also allows us to tell a cohesive story. So it's just a matter of kind of putting a plan together in place, and then trying to stick to it. But the core belief that we were not going to that we're going to honor the mythology as much as we could, that we were going to stay faithful to it, was kind of our overarching kind of goal throughout the process.
And did you talk with NetherRealm ahead of time? The guys who make the games. Did you sit down with them? Did they have ideas?
Yeah, so we got their feedback on my draft during the process. We got I remember getting on the phone, listening to Ed talk. I was super nervous because I was geeking out pretty hard just to hear Ed Boon talk. And yeah, we got his notes and his feedback, and definitely I remember one of his notes actually really helped, and I actually changed the script because of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was super helpful to get that.
Do you remember what that note was? What specifically did you say?
Yeah, I think it was really, when it came down to Kano's character throughout the story, I knew that I wanted to I knew where Kano was going to end up. I knew he's a bad guy. We all know Kano's a mercenary, self-serving, kind of low life. So we knew he was going there. I think what Ed's note was he said, take it further, keep pushing Kano towards that side. That's the character that he is. That's the character we designed. That's who he's supposed to be. And so we did. We just heightened Kano's turn to the dark side a little more.
Is it on that note? Is it challenging to kind of because you want to be faithful to the source material as much as possible, but at the same time you're kind of creating, at least I would imagine, your own incarnations of these characters. How challenging it to kind of maintain that balance of you don't want to just maybe do a 1-for-1, but because you want your own characters to have their identity, I guess.
Yeah, not even that. No, we really didn't want to change the characters. We didn't want to change who the characters were. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
So, there were different moments where we could have, the story could have had us changing. Kano could have stayed on the side of the heroes, but that's not who Kano is. So we wanted to make sure above all that we were being faithful to those characters. So it was less of a challenge. The challenge was really more about figuring out how do we fit all these characters into this movie, right? Because it's and we didn't want to overstuff it. We didn't want it to become MK Annihilation, for lack of a better word, right? I mean, where it's just all these characters just pop up and they have no role, nothing to do. And so that was the real challenge. The challenge was how do we introduce what's essentially I think there's 12 or 13 Mortal Kombat characters in this movie. So every one of those characters kind of has to be set up and introduced, and that's the challenge.
Yeah. Is it? Do you have a particular character that was most fun to write that you were looking forward to?
They're all a blast because there's so many unique personalities. But I'll say, writing Kano's fun because Kano's such a self-serving, egotistical prick that he's I got to pull for myself there. No, I'm kidding. It was,
I thought you were talking about me for a second.
Yeah, I was. No, I was.
All the people you've killed.
Yeah, Kano's a blast. Look, it's one of the devices I like in the film, and something that I wanted to put in the narrative was, Kano starts on the side. He doesn't start on the side of good, but he starts with the protagonist on their journey. And what I like about that is it allows me to create conflict right at the beginning. Because if I have a bunch of heroes that are all united to saving the world. That's a singular point of view, right? Just shared amongst people. But when I drop in a guy like Kano, he just throws everything out of whack. He creates conflict. And it just, as a screenwriter, all you're trying to do is create conflict. You're trying to find, conflict with your characters, conflict in your story. Because the harder the journey is, the more rewarding it is. So,
is he your favorite character in the games? Just out of curiosity.
No.
Oh.
My character, right, the character that I used to play in the arcades, was Katana. So I would kind of rule the MK2 machine with Katana. Had those moves on lock. I knew every one of them. But yeah, it's so that's another example where it's like I have so many characters I can't even sometimes put in the characters I love because it's not right yet for them to be introduced in the story.
Did you play the most recent Mortal Kombats?
I played everything. Yeah, I played. So yeah, I remember my first memory was tricking my mom into buying it in Target in 1994. I want to say.
Did you say tricking her?
Yeah, because you guys remember that was the first game that had the ESRB rating on it.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, 90s kids, we had to, they were more hardcore about it back then. So I had to like, hey mom, go buy me this. And I think she thought she was buying like Super Mario Bros. I'd even told.
I think parents in the 90s, not a lot of them were clued in on what the ESRB meant exactly. I think, there's a lot of I remember, was it, what was it was like the VR cop game where you have the light gun game, VR Virtual Cop. Maybe that was it. Yeah. I remember that being a big deal. And that was like super hardcore because you're shooting people.
Yeah. Like, what's the M mean? It means made for kids.
Made in America. Yeah.
Made for kids under 16. That's it.
So how much, if you've played all the games, how much Special Forces is in this movie? I'm curious. Did we get a cool groovy intro?
Is that your favorite group?
Oh, by far. It's the Tremor and that other guy who can't stop talking about him.
Special Forces are awesome. Like, they're definitely in the movie. But that's Sonya, that's Jax. Those are the core Special Forces group. We don't go too deep into the deep Special Forces lore,
of course.
But yeah, Sonya and Jax are big parts of this movie for sure.
Well, I mean, since you said you have played the recent games, what do you think of the narrative in the recent games? Because I feel like NetherRealm has done a pretty good job of putting story into these fighting games, which traditionally have not had, stories or been structured well to fit a story, and yet somehow they pulled it off. Did you look to those for inspiration?
They did. I mean, they've done. I mean, I give them a hell of a lot of credit. I mean, I think people have they've taken all the story bits out, and it's like a 3.5-hour movie if you just watch it straight through. I mean, it's an intense amount of content, and so they really are movies now. If you play those games, you're basically you're watching a movie that has a fight scene here and there, and I give them a lot of credit. I mean, looking back at where the origins were, where it's just two pixelated people punching each other. So I did look at that, but again, even the games have rebooted. They have retcon stuff, they've switched timelines, they've started over, so it's you can't really look at that and say, okay, I'm gonna kind of lift this into a film. It would never work. There's too much content. So really it's about looking at the overall Mortal Kombat mythology, the whole thing, and saying what pieces are important and what can I take out and then add to this story in a way so that it makes sense. And so I'll give an example of one big piece of that. When you're a writer, you're trying to find emotion. You're always trying to find, like, how do I get heart? How do I get emotion into my movie from the source material? And if you look at Mortal Kombat, other than the literal hearts being, ripped out, there isn't a ton of heart and emotion in the IP. So one place that I found it is Scorpion's backstory. And if you know Scorpion's backstory, it's pretty tragic. What happens to him and his family at the hands of Bihan, who later becomes Sub-Zero. So I knew that was a part of the mythology that I was like, I think that will translate really well to the screen. So our film actually opens with a 13-minute sequence in feudal Japan that tells that story. And so that's what it's about. It's about pulling out those little moments from the mythology that make sense for the story so that fans recognize them. But we're not lifting it carbon copy.
Oh, yeah. That ties in. I was going to ask, like, what is exciting about this particular take on Mortal Kombat you feel that you guys feel like captured?
Yeah, I think what's exciting, the thing that excites me when I talk to fans and stuff, the thing that gets them really excited is that it feels like they're getting the adaptation that they didn't get. And by the way, I love the original 95 film. I think it's such a delightful, throwback. I've watched it probably 20 times, right? There were a lot of limitations that film had to overcome. It had to be PG-13 at the time. They only had 2 games to pull from. They didn't have a ton of source material. So certain characters like Scorpion and Sub-Zero, for example, showed up in that movie, and they didn't do a lot, right? They each had a fight scene, and that was it. They didn't even speak. So 25 years later now, a lot has changed. All right, the games have gotten expansive. Characters like Scorpion and Sub-Zero are now the poster children, really, of the franchise. And so what excited me was I finally got to, like, I think you're finally going to get on the big screen all the stuff that you wish you kind of got when you were a kid, like at least when I wished I had gotten when I was a kid watching that movie. So Scorpion and Sub-Zero now major characters in it. They fight, you learn their backstories. And the other thing that we were now able to do is we're able to be R-rated. So the Mortal Kombat is an R-rated, very R-rated video game. So
is that something you knew going in when you started working on the script? You're like, this is going to be R-rated?
Absolutely. It was one of the things that everybody wanted to do. And there was no pushback. There's never any pushback from Warner Brothers or New Line. They knew what this was, and they wanted to be as faithful as the creative team did. Give the fans what they want. Let's do it for the fans. So yeah, it was always going to be R-rated. And then it was just a matter of, because that's what it is, right? That's the DNA of Mortal Kombat. It feels disingenuous to not do that. And again, I'm not saying the 95 film was wrong. That it had to be what it had to be. But now we get to do it right. It's kind of like a course correction.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are curious about the process too, in terms of like what goes into the script and then on screen. One of the things that was really exciting about one of the trailers that came out was seeing that scene where Sub-Zero freezes the guy's blood into a knife and stabs him. Is stuff like that stuff you write in the script?
Sometimes, when you write action sequences, what I try to do as a fan of the material is I always go to the source material first. So if I'm writing an action scene and I've got superhero, and I'm not superheroes, but I've got characters using their abilities, I'll try to pull stuff. So what you'll see in the film is you'll see literally, you'll see moves just taken directly from the game and brought to life in front of you. I mean, the fans were stopping the trailer and putting stills up of the trailer to the game, and they were virtually identical, which goes to show how much we're pulling from it. Now, when you write it, you do the best you can, right? You try to write the coolest stuff you can, but ultimately a team of creative people come in to make the movie. And so, we had an amazing fight choreographer on this, great stunt team, and our directors, obviously has his own vision to add to it. And so things like that blood, that was something that the stunt team added. And when I saw it, I was like, oh man, like it's like you think you write cool stuff, but then amazing people come in and they just they elevate it to a different level. And it excites me because I should have just taken credit for it. That's what I think.
Well, it's not too late.
Yeah, can we back up? Yeah, I wrote that. I wrote it.
Well, when coming up with those kind of sequences, like you hear the stories about when NetherRealm comes up with fatalities and they sit down and kind of figure out is this too much? Yes or no? Was there a similar process with the movie of where things were like, can we get away with this? Or was it pretty open? No, do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, so the games are crazy, right? Like this, the level that I give them so much credit because they have to keep one up against. And it's like, I don't know where your mind has to be to come up with the finishing moves in that game. It is dark sometimes, dude. It is dark. So for the movie, I think we have seven fatalities in the movie, right? And so the fun thing is, the first thing I have to do as a writer when I'm writing the fatalities is I have to make them important to the story. You can't just throw them in just to be there, right? So they have to matter to what's happening. They have to matter to the characters. They have to have stakes to them. So the hard part is all right, I know we're going to have them, but how do we do them so that they matter? Once I figure that out, then the fun part begins where I get to actually, pick what they are. And so part of my favorite experience writing this movie was I got to pick the fatalities that you see on screen. So, you'll see some great throwbacks. You'll see some classic stuff from MK1, MK2. Man, I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up on the old school stuff. So a lot of the iconic ones are there. And then there's some newer ones too. But in terms of the content and the level we could go, I was told, and I didn't, again, this is once you design it, and a lot of them are practical. That's the other cool thing. We didn't rely on CG. So it's you'd be on set and you'd just be walking around and it was like you were on it was using Tom Savini. You're like in a horror movie in the 80s. There's just bodies lying around and there's head props and buckets of blood everywhere.
So that stuntman actually froze that guy's blood?
Yeah, it was actually his blood. The actors really gave it their all. But obviously there's some flourishes here and there. But yeah, a lot of it's largely practical. Especially when things start exploding, they actually built these insane rigs of fluid that they blew up. So it's great. It just gives it a more authentic look to it when you're watching it. But we didn't. I was told they pushed it right to the limit, right to where the MPA was like, wait a minute.
How many rib cages do you want to come out of this guy?
I think it really does come down to that. I think there's like this weird protocol that they analyze with violence on screen.
Yeah,
it's like you can have like one heart, but not two.
They're in the editing bay, like one more second, we got to remove this. Yeah, it's crazy.
We can't do the weird cheat code where you can keep punching heads off of a character.
Were there any like super nerdy like Mortal Kombat details where you're like, man, I'd really love to just fit this in the story somehow? What's the smallest, weirdest detail you fit in there?
Way too much. It is insane. I mean, so most of like, it was funny because I was thinking about what kind of stuff did I want to, did I hope was in the film that ended up getting cut, and a lot of it was actually me just being a nerd on the page, just writing pages of people talking about backstory and lore and mythology. And like, I think there was a scene, between Melina and Shang Tsung where, she really talks about her lineage and Edenia and Katana and her sister and all, and it was like a 3-page scene. And I think, that's me being a nerd, but I think ultimately when you make a movie, you have to make sure that you're not drowning the audience, especially new audience, right, in mythology. So, there's definitely like a bunch of nerdy stuff, probably more, a ton more that I would have liked to have seen, but it's fine. At the end of the day, you're making a movie for everybody, and you got to make sure that you're open to it. But in terms of little flourishes and touches from the mythology, it's everywhere. I mean, down to like, and it was everyone involved that made this movie. So like even like props, for example, like you'll see Kano's knife actually has the black dragon on the blade, and
I got to give props to that knife. That's good detail.
Yeah, it's wild, and like Melina's like at the very tips of her size, I think, have like the iconography of her two both sides of her lineage. So Edenia and Tarkatan. So it's really cool. I mean, everybody put a ton of fan service into it. There's eggs everywhere, just for the
eggs. Oh, Easter eggs. It's like on the set, there's just tons of eggs.
Well, there were eggs everywhere.
Everybody was protein loading.
So many breakfasts.
Oh my gosh. That's cool. I heard that you're also working on the Space Invaders movie. What's this project about?
Right. Yeah, Space Invaders. So this is one that I really love, and it was a project. Obviously, it's based on the granddaddy of video games, right? This was like, still to this day, I think one of the biggest selling games of all time. If you look at actually what Space Invaders generated, and it's something that I love. My first system was an Atari 2600, and my first game was Space Invaders. So when it came to me like 4 years ago initially, and I passed on it because I just didn't know how to do it in a way where it wasn't going to be Independence Day, and I didn't want it to be Independence Day 2.0. Sorry, my dog is barking. What?
You're being invaded.
Yeah, I'm being invaded by dog invaders here. But yesterday was National Pet Day, so I have to be very sympathetic. But so yeah, I didn't want to do Space Invaders. I didn't want to do Independence Day. And then it came back around to me, and I was like, all right, I'm going to find a new, unique way into this. And I just did. I kind of pulled from my growing up in the 90s and what Space Invaders meant to me in the 80s. And I kind of built this kind of very nostalgic, emotional story. It's cool. I can't really go into details, but it's a new way in. It's a way in that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I'm curious to hear more about it when it comes out. So if you're 4 years in, we're probably 6 years out. If these things normally take 10 years, is that the math I'm making? And you're also working on a Saints Row movie? Or are you just like the video game adaptation guy now?
I don't know. They say in screenwriting, being pigeonholed is another word for branding, and branding can be a good thing. Look, I love games. I come at it with a passion. I've played all these things. It's not like I'm like the token guy on the lot. It's like, hey, you adapt this stuff. It's me raising my hand saying, I genuinely love this stuff. And for Saints Row, I mean, I've played every one of those games. I think they're wonderful. I'm a big fan of the developers behind them. And yeah, so that's a property that came to me, and I said, we can do this. We can do it in a cool way. And we got F. Gary Gray is attached to direct it, and I was just a big fan of his work. I think he's a great director. Set It Off is one of my favorite movies from the 90s. So it's a cool creative team. The challenge with that is obviously just like Mortal Kombat's tone, right? If you've played Saints Row, like the first couple games are darker, the grittier. Then it goes just bananas. It just goes like Santa Claus and aliens, and so it's all about like how do we balance that tone. And Mortal Kombat was kind of the same way. It was a tonal balance. So I'm excited for it. It hopefully we'll get it going.
Yeah, I traditionally video game movies specifically have had a hard time. It's been hard for video games to adapt themselves into films, which I don't know if we can blame the video games themselves or the people making them, but I'm just curious, do you have any insight as somebody who's worked in that business and why you think so many different companies have had trouble nailing it and making a good video game movie?
Yeah, so I think it's two things. So I think I'll give you the screenwriter answer second. I'll give you I think the more important answer first, which is it's passion. I honestly think you have to love this stuff. And I heard something really interesting. Somebody told me something really interesting the other day, where it's that this is the reason video game movies, they feel like they're getting better, or at least they're getting closer to the source material and being more faithful, is that the people that grew up with them are now in creative positions where they're making the movies. So there was a long time where like those 90s kids, like we were the 80s and 90s kids, like we were the generation that video games was made for. We popularized it, we brought it to life. And so for the 20 years after we were kids playing that stuff, people that were making those games weren't us. They weren't the people that grew up with that love for it and that passion for it. So it's the first time really where I think those mid 80s and early 90s kids like myself are now in creative positions where we can adapt these things that we grew up loving. And the screenwriter answer is I just think that the challenge for adapting a video game is that you are writing to two audiences. So you're writing to the fans and you're writing to a new audience that doesn't know anything about the games. If I were going to write Mortal Kombat 12, it would just be fan service. It would just be all just love for the geekdom of being an MK fan. But as a screenwriter, you have to leave yourself open to audiences that don't know what Mortal Kombat is. And so you're walking a line there. And if you go one way or the other too much, the movie falls apart. If you're too faithful to the material, the audience coming in, the new audience, is going to tune out. They won't know what's happening. And if you stray too far from the material, the fans are gonna kill you. And then you're done, right? Because if you lose the fans on a video game adaptation, it's over. So you got to be faithful, but you also have to be accepting of the fact that some people don't know what Mortal Kombat is, and they're going to want to go and have a good time.
Yeah. How much fun is that? Because it feels like you almost get an excuse to kind of introduce people to Mortal Kombat, this thing that you love, through this script of like, hey, let me show you guys why this is cool.
It is. It's great, and it's great for the brand. It's great for Mortal Kombat in general because it has to continue to keep bringing in fans too. That it's like anything. Like these pieces of property, they're all just they're kind of like machines, and as fans get older, they leave the games behind. So they want to bring in a new group of fans. So it's really cool to, as a kind of a I don't make the games, but as somebody that is kind of a side attachment to that to what they do at NetherRealm, I get to help bring in hopefully a new group of fans that will then see the movie and say, "Wow, that was a cool movie. I'm going to go play the game for the first time." So it's neat. It's kind of like a symbiotic thing. It's like we couldn't make the movie without the talented people at NetherRealm that make these games. Like that's obvious. But I hope in our film, at least, we can bring a new audience to the games too. So hopefully it'll get more people playing them.
Awesome.
I can beat up online or just get destroyed. Getting destroyed.
More noob fodder for your destroy online. That's something.
Yeah, no, I'm not that good.
Who do you play? Who's your character?
I kind of jump around, but Scorpion's always been my favorite.
Yeah, I'm a Scorpion guy too, honestly.
You are too?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
Team
Liu
Scorps.
Kang are both pretty good. But it's hard to pass up a ninja who can like breathe fire with a skull face,
But do you know all the moves, or are you one of those like spamming teleport guys that just like destroys people?
No, I'm the cool player that doesn't spam the cool back teleport, as tempting as that can be. But I'm not. I don't like master the combos either. I'm kind of like in the middle, I guess. Yeah. Like I play fair, but I'm not an expert by any means, despite my love for the series. So.
I hear you.
Well, Greg, do you have any other like dream video game projects? You're like, man, I hope someday I'll get to work on this. I'm going to bring this to the big screen.
Oh, wow. Look, I mean, as a huge lifelong gamer, there are definitely some unicorns out there. I love BioShock. It's one of my favorite games ever made. I would love to try to capture what made that game so great, which was this very contained horror, setting, just being alone in this place in the dark with the splicers hunting you. I grew up, I was a PC kid in like the mid to late 90s. So Half-Life was like my awakening as a gamer. It was the moment I was like, wow, this is bigger than what I thought it was. It can be bigger than what I thought it was. So
did you play Half-Life, Alex? Do you have VR set up?
No, I do not. I do not. I have an Xbox, so I don't have VR over here.
It requires quite a commitment, but yeah, it's worth checking out if you can.
Is it great? I played all the old spin-offs of the old Half-Life, like Opposing Force and Blue Shift, and Half-Life 2 is obviously one of the greatest games ever made.
Yeah, I mean, I love Alex. I just adore it. It's a great game. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I spoke to the people at Bad Robot a while back about Portal, just kind of talking to them about it. They had it there, J.J. Abrams' company. It's another wonderful game. It's a hard adaptation. And again, it's like sometimes it's like these masterpieces are, I almost want to say, are better left alone sometimes. You ask me what I would love to work on, it's that. But there's a huge responsibility working on that stuff, and I wouldn't take it lightly.
Yeah, I mean, Portal, I adore that franchise, and I'm having trouble imagining it. It's like one of my favorite games. And I'm having trouble imagining it as a movie.
Is there any existing video game films that you kind of wish you could get in there and maybe like rewrite?
Existing as in have already come out, or existing as in they're working on them?
That's already come out.
Hopefully it doesn't say Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Crack at that one. I love what IO Interactive has done with the last two Hitmans. Like it is one of the most perfect games that is being made right now. And every one of them, I've played every mission. I got every achievement in Hitman 2. I'm such a nerd. Hitman and Hitman 2. That's how much of a nerd I am. But did I feel like that Hitman got his due? No, not really. If I could go back and address it, I would work on Hitman. I would say, let's make it a cool, stealthy, action film. Let's not just blow up stuff. Hitman doesn't go in blowing stuff up. He goes in surgically. He goes in with a plan, and he's intelligent and he's smart. So, yeah, I feel like 47 still deserves his day in court, so to speak.
Yeah,
I keep going back to him too. He's more than most video game franchises. They keep taking shots with him.
If you do that, Greg, can I be in it? Can you write me into that script?
You can be who's the one he talks to? The Diana? You can be Diana.
I've always thought of myself as a Diana.
What if he has to sneak into Game Informer and he has to disguise himself as Ben?
Oh geez. Who would he be killing though? Who's he going in there to take out?
That's a good question.
All right.
Yeah. His greatest enemy.
Right.
Behind you right now, I can see him in your video.
Oh my god.
Well, Greg, any final thoughts or any parting words about why people should see the film?
Look, I mean, I just want people to know that this was created by a team of people that were not kind of controlled by any force other than their own love and passion for the material. We really did, myself, the director, the actors, and the crew. We came at this with just really loving the source material and trying to our best to give the fans something that they will love too. So, it's I hope that they can see the effort that we put into it under the kind of the constraints that we had, and hope they really enjoy it.
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for being on. I know I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know it's out internationally, but here in the States, it comes out on the 23rd. So I'm excited to check it out.
April 23rd, yes, in the US. And thanks for having me. I'm a big fan. I used to love waiting for my Game Informer mag every month. I would sit there by my door like a dog, waiting for it to show up. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Me too. I can't wait to watch it. So excited.
And that inspired you to get a dog, I understand.
It did, yes. And then he could fetch my Game Informer, so it paid for itself. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Well, Greg, it has been a pleasure. Come back on anytime. Thank you out there for watching or listening to this episode of the GI Show. We really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the magazine, and then come back next week and we'll have another episode. Until then, everybody, game on.